If you've been struggling to get followers and views on Instagram, and if you've ever thought, well, maybe the algorithm is just not on my side, or the latest algorithm updates are just messing me up and stuff like this, let me actually show you the exact same system that I've been using with my clients for, the better part of 2 years now. Obviously, we've been refining this process basically daily, but let me show you the latest step-by-step process you can actually follow that we have used to get our clients 4.2 million followers over the past 12 months. At least that's how much it was when I last took a look at this. Obviously, it's been a lot more. Just yesterday, there was another client hitting 100,000 followers. The other day was somebody hitting 500,000 followers. Oh yes, but you get the idea. These are just a bunch of screenshots that we've just recently gotten. As you can see, well, it's just basically recently with our clients. I could scroll for days at this point already, but I don't want to toot my horn, actually. I just want to use this whole thing to actually make you figure out and make you understand that Instagram is far from dead. And I honestly believe, especially if you want to monetize and build a strong following base right now in 2024, Instagram is the strongest platform out there, especially for short form content. Now, the way we've been able to do this, right? Because there's a lot of gurus out there who are just talking about this one strategy and this one thing that just works well and stuff like this. Yes, obviously it might work for them, but I've been working with clients for the better part of 7 years now, and I have seen the game change so many times, to be honest. And if there's one thing I can say is that, well, there's not one strategy. There's actually some things that might work for one person, might not work at all, might actually mess up the other person's account. And this is where our strategy from my agency basically right now, the Creator Mentorship, comes into play, which I call data-driven content marketing, data-driven content framework. Because here's what's up. Again, if there's one thing I've learned over the past years, you just need to take a look at data. We don't want to do hope marketing. We don't want to just throw a bunch of content out there and hoping it will stick. We actually want to throw a bunch of content out there. First of all, hoping it would stick. But, and that's the important difference, we want to be able to analyze which one of them stuck, and what are the insights that we can actually take away from this whole mess that we created. Now, in order to do this whole content marketing framework, well, it's not so beautiful as I thought it would be. We obviously need to get all the way down back to your inner core, back to what you are and why you even want to become an Instagram creator or a content creator in the first place. Because I see it a lot. Lots of clients come to me. They're like, well, I just want to get Instagram famous, for example. I just want the internet to give me internet points, invisible internet points that are not going to buy me anything at the end of the day. Well, fair enough, right? There's also a way to get that, to just be cool among your friends, but obviously that won't buy bread at the end of the day, or a Lamborghini. Well, you know what I mean. So first of all, you need to be aware of what are your actual goals, and not just your goals. For example, if you want to just make money with it, which probably is obviously the case, or you want to become free in terms of having more freedom, or that was my initial goal when I started out, was I just don't want to wake up anymore and go to work, right? I didn't care as much about the actual becoming rich part. I actually cared about being free. So, that was my initial thing, but that's not enough, because we also need to be aware of what is our actual mission, because what actually drives us. For example, in my case, it still is the same thing. I want to help as many people as possible to actually become free, actually make money, and do things that they love, which is content creation, because that's actually the thing that I love the most as well. Now, if we're clear about that, only then we can sort of reverse engineer our strategy, our content strategy, that is, first of all, in alignment with our own goals, but also one that's in alignment with what works. Because you'll get yourself burnt out quicker than you can say hello if it's misaligned, kind of. Now, so first of all, get clear on that part. What is your actual why? And write it down right now. Take a pen and paper, write it down. What is your why? What is your goal? Think about, let's say, in a year from now, what is the one thing you want to have accomplished with your content, right? With your Instagram account, for example. Most likely it's being free. Most likely it's making money. Who knows? Whatever that is, just write it down. Then the second thing, that is even the most important thing, and in my programs, we spent weeks, sometimes with some clients even months, figuring that out. And here's a quick outlook into the future. You're gonna always have to think of your ideal viewer persona, aka your avatar, if you create content, because things change, things develop, content develops, stuff like this. So second thing I want you to write down right now, instantly, because once you've done it, you got it over with. Because I know most people actually, they struggle with this and they don't want to spend time on this crucial part. But yeah, think about what is the age of your ideal viewer? What are their struggles, right? What are their biggest frustrations? Everybody has frustrations, and here's actually where you come in. Also, you want to know about their values. You also want to know about their goals, right? Ideally, these things are in alignment with you, with your mission, and with your goals, because, well, people just like the whole no bullshit thing, and people just like to kind of be attached to somebody that has been in the same situation as them before. So once we have that, and it can take a while for you to figure that out, we actually have some videos here on my channel about this. Also in my free school community, we have some actual free lessons about this in there. But once you're clear about that, only then we can actually start with the content strategy. We can start with data-driven marketing, right? Content market. And basically, we just want to break this whole thing down into 3 simple phases, because simple scales, everything else fails. I don't know. There's a saying about that in the content marketing space. I have no idea what it actually is, but let's just assume that's the one. Actually, let's just make that our thing right here. Simple scales, everything else fails. It's probably different than what I said before. And going in there, the first phase is, in my opinion, the most important one. And I would say 65% of the initial creator mentorship cohort that I'm running, where I basically teach a group of people this whole process hands-on on their own example and with their own content, it revolves around this whole first phase, which is a lot of research and a lot of trial and error. And if you're right now like, what do you mean trial and error? I thought you know what to do. That's actually the thing. We don't know what to do until we throw a bunch of stuff out there, because every audience is different. Every creator is different. And, sometimes even though you have the same audience, the way you create content, the way you package content, the way you kind of, strategize your content could be totally different for you that it works, because people just feel the way some things are natural to you or not. And these are the things that actually make the difference in the grand scheme of things. But don't get confused right now, because let me actually show you what to do in this first phase, step by step, so you can have actually 10,000 followers as soon as possible. Fun fact, this whole process actually, it is basically the same whether for the first 10,000 followers, for the first 100,000 followers, actually for the first 1,000,000 followers as well. But I'll show you the little differences in this video along the way. So the goal of this first phase, or the 3 major parts of this first phase, are for you actually to get a lot of insights. First of all, you want to get industry insights about what's going on in the content world inside your industry. So basically the macro level of things, because you want to stay on top of it. You want to know what content generally is going on in your niche. You also, if you're actually a good creator, you also want to know what content is actually going on generally in the whole content creation world, platform-wide, but also outside of your main platform, which is Instagram in this case. So that's the first thing. You want to have this overview, and we're going to use the whole research to get that. The second thing is to actually get content insights about, basically the micro level, about which individual pieces of content perform for your competitors, but also for yourself. Because obviously in this whole phase, we want to start posting as soon as possible, because the third thing is actually we want to get the algorithm on our side. We want to become friends with this dreaded algorithm, which is totally changing every single week. And if you remember, a few weeks back, I made a video saying, well, the algorithm sort of got fixed. Well, we're going to have to make another video about this. But it's a little more volatile than it used to be before. So if your content, if your reach is down generally in the past 2 to 3 weeks, it's down for everybody. Don't worry about it. We'll get over it. And this actually gets me to the next point right here. This is normal, and this is why you need to spend a lot of time in that phase, in that first phase. It might seem slow for you, right? Just being in that phase. I'll tell you in a second what to actually watch out for. But this is actually for the better part. for the better, for the whole long-term thing. I'll show you in a second. But just be aware that this whole first phase can and most likely will take weeks, if not months. Again, getting insights and training the algorithm to understanding your content landscape, but to also post consistently to actually gain algorithm trust. And I would strongly advise you to post at least 3 times a week, because that seems to be somewhat of threshold within the Instagram algorithm. I have seen some special cases among my clients where they post less than that, 1 to 2 twice a week, and it still works. Still at the beginning, obviously, because most likely you're not the best content creator yet. You don't know a lot of things about hooks and how to package content and how to script your stuff. Obviously, the more you create, the more you learn, and the more you actually get ahead with this whole thing. So you want to basically maximize the output as much as possible, not just for the algorithm, but mostly also for you. And then also, just by doing that, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, the other goal to doing that is actually to create a back catalog for potential breakout videos, and which will be, hint, the phase number 2. Because at some point, we want some of the videos to kind of break out and give us some spikes in viewership. And if we don't have a back catalog from other videos, and I'll show you in a second what that actually means, we're going to have a problem, because people are not going to follow us, which is going to be bad for the algorithm. Now, the last important thing for this whole stage, for this whole phase 1, is to actually get insights and data that we can use, because if you remember, we're actually doing data-driven content marketing, because without data, without the right kinds of data, it's gonna just be, again, throwing out a bunch of stuff and hoping it will stick. Hope marketing, basically. Now, this phase also is the phase where most creators give up, unfortunately. And I've seen this times again and again, because it just takes, first of all, a lot of patience. Remember back in the days, if you're among the old crowd like me, Gary Vee also always used to say, well, I forgot what he always used to say, but something with patience. Hard work and patience or something like that. And that is actually true still to this day, because it just takes time to get the algorithm's trust to, kind of understand this. Plus, all these short-term algorithm drops, like the one we see right now, we're not going to get data that shows us stuff over the long term if we just create for 2 weeks, while there's an algorithm drop, and then we take a look at the data, see, well, it's down, whereas, it's down for everybody. And we actually have to take a look at this whole thing for a longer period of time. That's just the way it is. The world turns around, time is a thing, and you just can't blow up overnight. Fun fact, this strategy is usually what people call blowing up overnight, because the first phase will look like this, and at some point you're gonna blow up, and everybody's just gonna take a look at this and see that things will blow up, but nobody's gonna see the hard work that you've done for weeks to months at an end before that in this first important phase. Now, how to use and get data for this first important phase as best as possible. We usually, well, actually always, we use a what I call content pillar strategy. It's not just me, it's just everybody calls it that. We also call it content bucket strategy. Doesn't matter. Yes, there's a hook in there, or actually an anchor in there, and it's not a pillar. Don't ask me why, but it just looked better. And you might have heard this a lot out there. If you swipe through Instagram or somebody's like, well, you need to create content pillars. This is the secret to blowing up to 5 million followers overnight, stuff like that. Here's the thing. I feel like most people don't really understand what content pillars actually are, because usually if I read through that, people say, well, a pillar would be educate, another pillar would be to inspire people, and another pillar is how-to kind of content. Apologies, by the way, I've been sick over the past days without internet here in Kiev. And I got sick and my voice is done, but we're not going to focus on that right now. So yeah, pillar content is not that. These would be overarching categories that you can then use to subgroup content pillars underneath. And if you just create content like this, you're not going to get far. You're not going to get the data that we actually need for our data-driven content framework. So what a content pillar actually is, my friends, is basically like a subtopic with a similar hook. You know, something that instantly makes us recognize, oh, I've seen this before. Oh, I know what this is. Oh, I know where this is possibly leading towards. Talking about setting expectations, talking about kind of, you know, the brain always wants to kind of know what's going to happen. And, you know, basically, you know, brain always recognizes patterns. And by having that, you make it a lot easier just for people to instantly recognize and instantly set an expectation what's going on, as well as, you know, bingeability. Ideally, you want, you know, followers to take a look, find one of your videos, and then watch your whole catalog through, and it's gonna make it a lot easier for them if they have pillars. If they see, oh, I've seen that, I want to see a similar video to the one that I just saw before, and then watch through all of them. Here's an example of how content pillars could look, actually from one of our clients from the Creator Mentorship. Great job, by the way. And you can see it, you know, it did fairly well, I would say, but you can instantly see that this is similar content. First of all, it's a very unique visual branding style, visual identity style that is unique to the creator. So if you see this, or if you see just two of them, you instantly know, well, this is this creator who, you know, I've seen before. Also, the first frame hierarchy, you can instantly, well, you just can't recognize what's going on right here. Well, it doesn't look good if I draw in there, but you can see two things, some hook, text hook in the front, and some comparison, and sort of like a meme character going on with some emotion, stuff like this. So that would be a pillar. Yeah, for this first phase, our goal is to actually create 3 to 5 content pillars, maybe even more. Always depends on your niche and the research that you did in your audience, right? Understanding your industry and content, but create at least 3 to 5 and experiment them to gather data for a minimum of 4 weeks, before you first start drawing conclusions. Ideally longer. 45 days, 60 days, sometimes is actually when you can actually get real data. Now, so this would be one pillar, right? Let's say this pillar right there. Then you just need to fill it up with different pillars. And like I said, continue posting for at least, you know, 4 weeks, ideally more. And how are you going to do that? Well, the easiest way, at least at the beginning, is to, you know, kind of take what we said here, take the content insights from our industry, and basically recreate similar content right there. This is actually a funny example because I think this post recreated their account, their post. But then again, it's just, you can kind of see what's going on right here. Well, Rolex, Day-Date, Rose Gold, Olive, 2 years ago, this price, right now, this price. We can see it's validated, it has 4,000 likes. And then we can try to find a way to wrap it around our own brand identity, our own style, or just, if you don't have a style yet, just experiment with that. This is what this first phase is about. Please take your time. It's totally okay to experiment with stuff, and it's totally okay for stuff to flop. You actually want stuff to flop. Nobody's gonna care, because we need, again, we need the data. Even if the data is just a little bit. And I'll show you that in a second. Now, again, how to do that, we're gonna wanna spot patterns in the industry and use basically proven frameworks, right? Similar hooks, similar first frames, similar videos with a similar length and stuff like this. And then again, we group them into pillars. And by that point, we just need to grind it out. I just tell you how it is. There's no silver bullet. There's no hack to help you out. There are some small hacks that might help you out, but actually there's no real hack. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about hashtags, okay? Just don't worry about them. Use them a little bit, again, to, like I always say, to tell what's going on. But for example, this creator who has a lot of views, basically, and by the way, this creator started from 0, you know, and within, I would say, a month or something, this happened. They used a maximum of 1 hashtags per post. Some of them actually had 0. Just putting that out there. And that was recently, right? So it's not just some old story. Okay, now, coming from the content pillar strategy, posting, grinding, trying different pillars. And again, we need to be consistent with the pillars, right? Also for the data later on. let's say about 3, 4, 5 weeks later, we want to first start to track our data of these things. And we want to take a look at, well, maybe we can spot some pattern, whatever that pattern might be. You know, like I said, could be the hook, could be the length of the video, could be the style of the video, could be, you know, whatever that is. But before I tell you what that actually is, let's go on to phase number 2, because to be honest, it's not like phase number 1 and phase number 2. It's actually phase number 1 is kind of swimming through phase number 2, if you get what I mean. We're just going to delete that for the algorithm, but you know what I mean. So it's kind of merging together. That's what I wanted to say, actually. Now, here's one important thing, though. An issue that I see with most creators, to be honest. It's really, really important to take time with this initial phase, because if you instantly, you know, chances are you're going to find, let's say this pillar, you know, you create this content and this blows up within a week of you starting the account or 2 weeks of posting. You're going to be like, oh, wow. I'll just use this pillar now, and I don't care about the rest right here. And obviously you're going to grow like crazy. That's going to happen a lot. You're going to grow like crazy. Oh, I actually have this here. You're going to grow like crazy, but it's not for the long term, because you'll actually corner yourself into something very narrow, unsustainable. And the more you kind of milk just one content pillar out, the more the algorithm's also going to corner you in. And it will be very hard to get out of it. It will be possible, obviously, but it will be hard. And if we can take a look at this, this is actually what you want. You know, if we lay this over, let's say it's kind of like this. You know, let's say this is 3 months in. 3 months in. And if we were to compare these two accounts, you'd be like, well, this account A does so much more better, has hundreds of millions of views and so many more followers, and the second account doesn't in comparison to that. But we actually want to just take a look at the long term. Please remember that. We're in it for the long term. We don't care for vanity metrics that are just short-term view boosts. Because what's going to happen with the one account is going to just start to lose steam. It's going to hit a plateau. And then they're going to call me and we're going to fix it. Well, this being the problem, but let me actually tell you how, and you know, how to track the analytics and how to track your, basically, your pillars, to use that whole data to blow up even more. And here's the thing. I call this whole phase the breakout video. Like we said before, at some point you want to have one breakout video or another, and then double down on some of these breakout videos to actually grow and kind of handle yourself up to different Instagram algorithm tiers. The thing is, a breakout video does not necessarily mean it's a viral video. It could literally be something like this here, where a video just, let's say you have 39 followers, where a video reaches 2,400 followers. 8,000% more. Might not look like a lot in terms of, absolute numbers, but it's actually something to take home and something to work with. So be really kind of focused on percentage increases within your pillars. And once you see that, try to find, first of all, content that has, and that's the most important thing, that has higher reach on average, like you said, percentage-wise. But then also take a look at which content has got you the most followers, because chances are it's not the one that actually had the higher reach, or which content gave you the most comments, talking about the audience development, the relationship you have with the audience, safe, sense, stuff like this. Just, basically track everything. Also, by the way, money. If money is your actual goal, fun fact, a lot of the times, especially for me, the content that makes me the most money is the content that has the least amounts of reach. Just putting that out there. So yeah, this is why sometimes you see a lot of creators who are totally fine with not ever blowing up and having sort of low numbers. Basically, for the outside, it might look like they're a failure, but actually internally, that's the content that actually makes them money. So be aware of that as well, and be okay with that as well, especially if you want to, money is your actual goal right now, your short-term goal as well as your long-term goal. Now, track these things, and then try to spot patterns among the ones that perform a little better. So anything, right? Ideally, you write down some lists. In my creator mentorship, we have some sheets for that, depending on your coach, your personal coach will work that out with you, for example. But You know, note down anything from the style, whatever that might be. Could be, you know, the fonts that you use, the overall look and feel, the hooks, most likely 99%, no, but 85% is going to be something related to the hooks. Also the length of the videos, and I'll show you some insights about the best length in terms of Instagram right now to give you followers and reach. Also comments, maybe among some video you notice a influx of certain comments, you know, different comments. One video you usually just get emoji comments, in one video that doesn't get a lot of views, but one video gives you very in-depth comments that kind of make people join a conversation, stuff like this. Note down on that and try to figure out what is going on here. And once you've done that, again, for weeks on end, ideally months, obviously, then it's time to eliminate some of the low-performing pillars and change them out with something new. At some point, you're going to have a system where you basically have, let's say, A, B, C, always performs better than average, always helps you. And then D and E are things where you play around, with, things that you experiment with, things that actually you use to kind of get the channel to stay fresh. And these are the ones that are guaranteed to give you views or whatever that is, because, you know, there's something I call the AVC framework, you know, attention, value, connection, right? A lot of the times, you know, basically be aware that different content can have different purposes for you. Obviously, the majority, especially if you want to grow to 10K followers or more, it's going to be attention. So focusing on content that gives you the most reach and followers, but also could be value. For example, content, like I just said, content that doesn't give you the most reach, but gives you the most money at the end, or content that actually gives you the most comments that makes followers to kind of fall in love with you, if you will, to become your friends, your actual true fans. Now, obviously, you know, this thing is going to be the main bread and butter for you. Well, that's not the right term, but that's going to be your main thing that you need to work on. This posting pillars, tracking them, spotting patterns, and reworking them and kind of make them better. There are a few tools for that, and basically most of my videos talk about these things. We're going to make a bunch of other videos about this. And also, we have a totally free community where I am inside. Some of my coaches are inside. I right now still have a free course, totally free course for you to go through in my Creator Club, free community on school. Check it out. If you're a cool kid, you will actually get accepted. No, I'll actually accept almost everybody, to be honest. Obviously. But there are a few things that I can tell you right now that just work right now. So depending on when you watch this video, these might be sort of out of date. All the other things are not going to be out of date because they've been basically the same for years now. And this is usually what most creators focus on, these hacks. You know, what are the hacks that work? These are just small things that kind of help you a little bit, but that's about it. So first of all, hooks, obviously, we've talked about this, under the radar hooks that are not here at the top 5 lessons I learned from drinking cat piss. Well, my mind is sometimes very weird. Just came out of the blue right now. But yeah, obviously these under the radar hooks. Watch my last video to kind of know what we're talking about. Then also on Instagram, 4 to 30 seconds content just works the best right now, with an emphasis on lower, shorter. Using the M automation. Now, there's been some controversies about that recently over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, I still didn't have time to make a video about this because I was stuck here in the war zone, unfortunately, without internet and with a fever. And somebody took away my tooth, the doctor, totally unexpectedly a few days ago. What a life. So, what a life. Anyway, also, what I call the comment strategy. There's also a video that I've made about how to use comments effectively to kind of get the first sort of eyeballs to kind of make the algorithm a little bit earlier aware of your content. Also a video, I'll link it down below. And obviously there's some tools to help you with the research thing. Talk Audit, obviously for TikTok, Viral Finder for Instagram. And the most important tool is the retention curves that you have on Instagram. Yes, I'm aware if you just recently watched this, they've been taken away for 80% of creators over the past 2 weeks. Why? We don't know, because they're trying to fix something, they're trying to update something, but they'll be back. I can guarantee you that. The other thing is, this constant optimizing your content. Always revisit your avatar, always revisit your goal every, few months, just to come back and just to, be aware that you're actually still on the right track and you're not kind of going exactly the opposite of where you wanted to go because, for example, you followed the vanity metrics and the views and the followers. Might be cool, might be aligned, but sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where you're a viral creator and you don't know what to do with it because you kind of hate doing that, right? So there's that. That's the most important thing. If you just do that, you'll be fine, right? You'll blow up, especially over the course of a few months if you consistently do that. But we want to scale this thing up to be actual sustainable, to get fans who actually come back to your profile, who recognize you on the streets, for example, who buy your stuff, who are basically this last phase is the phase to make you the number one creator in your space. And this phase is going to make you the one that people look at and copy your content, right? Doesn't matter if people copy your content because you're the OG and it's about you as a creator, your personal brand. That's the strong element of this whole thing. And recently there was actually a study from Google, right? I mean, Google search is kind of weird. Has been weird lately. I'm not using it anymore. Let me know. Do you still use Google search? Because it's really gotten weird. But they call it actually the 7-11-4 rule of getting. Well, that's my part of getting actual followers. They're actually talking about getting conversions and, getting conversions. And basically, this rule means that if we wrap it around the whole content context, in order to become a true fan and buy from you, a random viewer who swipes through your profile has to watch your content for 7 hours, right? 7 hours across 11 moments or touch points in 4 different locations, right? Obviously, it's not set numbers. It's also sort of like a fluid system. But this thing is why video obviously is king, because consuming 7 hours of content is just easier with videos. Obviously, but not only. Don't forget carousels. Don't forget just regular pictures with captions, because it takes a while to read captions as well. You can take people on a ride with a caption as well and become your fans. Put a smile on their face, stuff like this. But also, and never forget that, which is the most important thing for any creator, emails, right? And all these things, obviously. We have different locations. We have reels. We have carousels. We have stories. So important. Stories, because that's the symbol for stories. Emails. We have other social media platforms. Ideally, you also open up at least another, for example, YouTube. Maybe even long form YouTube if you're okay with that. But also, let's say TikTok or short form YouTube, stuff like this, and nurture them with exactly this system for a while. And you're going to see, you're automatically going to get fans and followers that want to buy from you, fans that are your actual fans as opposed to just some random viewers. Basically, this example. And this is why it's good to, sort of take your time, but you'll be the one that will still be here at the end of the day. Fun fact, short story from my beginnings. When I started out with this YouTube channel right here, I was basically one of many 4 or 5 creators who all were bigger than me. And so they got more, they were kind of like this example. They all blew up. And I was always like the late bloomer, the slow grower. Not in terms of the monetization, I have to say, but in terms of the whole views and stuff like this. Guess what? I am the only one who's left. Just putting that out there. Now, obviously, there's another phase, the 4th phase that is not really part of this video, but this is the actual one that's gonna put food on the table for you and mom, and at the time, every house that we. But yeah, this will actually be the easy way if you've been nurturing the whole other system for a while for the right time. Now, the making money part, here's what's up. I'm gonna have something very special, and it just applies to a few of you, so don't worry about it. You can watch another video that's in the comments down below if you're not interested in making money. But at the end of the month, I'm gonna take 15 creators where I think we have 7 or 8 spots left, and I'm gonna personally install my money-making framework, basically phase 4, into their whole content strategy to make actual money. The framework that I've been using for a while that has basically gotten me to my goals. So yeah, apply it down below, talk to my community manager, Florian. And if you're still in for the phase of growing your audience, join my free newsletter, the Insider Club, where we have almost weekly newsletters, depending on if I'm sick, with content breakdowns, strategies, insights, and obviously my free school community. I'll see you in a few days. And let me know if I should create a video with the same process about the whole monetization thing. Maybe in the school. I don't know if we should put this on YouTube.